Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I wanted to discuss with you Scientology's viewpoint on homosexuality, their attempted way to cure homosexuality, and also what their current stance is on LGBT-related issues. So the first quote that I'm going to be reading to you is from Dianetics, The Modern Science of Mental Health, which is L. Ron Hubbard's main book. And I'm going to read to you on what L. Ron Hubbard defines the homosexual as. The sexual pervert, and by this term Dianetics to be brief, includes any and all forms of deviation in dynamic 2, which is the sex dynamic, such as homosexuality, lesbianism, sexual sadism, etc. And all down the catalog of Ellis and Kraft-Ebing is actually quite ill physically. He goes on to say, perversion as an illness has many manifestations that it must be spread through the entire gamut of classes from 1 to 5 above. Overdevelopment of sexual organs, underdevelopment, seminal inhibition or magnification, etc. are found, some in one pervert, some in another. He is very far from culpable for his condition, but he is so far from normal and so extremely dangerous to society that the tolerance of perversion is as thoroughly bad for society as punishment for it. So L. Ron Hubbard in Dianetics is stating that a sexual pervert also is equivalent to a homosexual, a lesbian, transgender. L. Ron Hubbard categorized them all in one category. In L. Ron Hubbard's book, Science of Survival, he introduces us to the concept of the tone scale. Now, the tone scale is basically the human chart of evaluation. So it goes all the way from death at 0, all the way up to enthusiasm, up to theta, up to like the highest states of being. Now, L. Ron Hubbard ranked gays and lesbians as 1-1 on the tone scale, which is right above that body death. So I have here Hubbard's chart of human evaluation. It's a very big chart. I can't even show you the whole entire chart, but I'm going to read to you some of the characteristics of a 1-1. So, as you see here, 1.1 is right here. The top of the scale is up here, 40.0. So if you go here to 1-1, you can scroll across and read some of the characteristics. So this is what L. Ron Hubbard has to say about the 1-1. Incapable, irresponsible, ingenuous, vicious perversions of the truth, sex criminals, negative ethics, deviously dishonest, perverts honestly without reason, interbulates others, which means to upset them, no control of reason or emotions, promiscuity, perversion, sadism, irregular practices, use of children for sadistic purposes, dramatizes locks and engrams. I don't want to talk about the Scientology weird stuff. Talks in apparent theta but vicious intent. Okay. Recall of pain as such very occasional. Physical pain converted to fear. Dub insonic, dub invisio. Covert hostility. So if you're gay, you're covertly hostile. Psychotic. Capable of minor execution. This is a level of covert hostility. So as you see in this row, these are the levels. So if you have here 3.5 and it's that, so we go all the way down to 1-1, covert hostility. So we see anger here, and you see all the way going up. This is the top of the scale. Right over here is body death. So gays are right here at 1-1. So that's what L. Ron Hubbard said in Science of Survival. So, in Handbook for Pre-Clears, this is where L. Ron Hubbard basically talks to Dianeticists and auditors on how they can audit out the gay. So this may not make a lot of sense to many people, but for those of you who have some Scientology basic understanding, I'll try to explain it, I guess. But this is what it says. It's just a paragraph right over here, so I'm going to read to you a little bit of what L. Ron Hubbard said. An individual aberrated enough about sex will do strange things to be a cause or an effect. He will substitute punishment for sex. He will pervert others. Homosexuality comes from this manifestation and from the manifestation of life continuation for others. A boy whose mother is dominant will try to continue her life from any failure she has. A girl whose father is dominant will try to continue his life from any failure he has. The mother or the father was cause in the child's eyes. The child elected himself successor to cause. Break this life continuum concept by running sympathy and grief for the dominant parent, and then run off the desires to be in effect and their failures, and the homosexual is rehabilitated. Homosexuality is about 1.1 the tone scale. So is general promiscuity. And then there are exercises of cause and effect processing. Scan through every time you desired not to be a cause sexually. Scan through every time you regretted being a sexual cause. Scan through every time you desired not to be an effect sexually. Scan through every time you regretted being an effect sexually. Scan through every time you desire to be a sexual cause. Scan through every time you desire to be a sexual effect. Don't forget the scanning is done until you are extroverted on the subject. So that was the auditing commands that they would use in session. So scan every time you obeyed a sexual partner about anything. Scan every time you resented somebody's sexual conversation. Scan every time you try to hide something about sex. Scan every time you desired food. Scan every time you wanted to retain the sensation of having been entertained. Scan every time you called up an old sexual experience for your amusement. Scan every time a sexual partner was demanding. Scan every time a sexual partner refused sex. Scan every time somebody stole from you a member of the other sex. Scan every failure concerning sex. Scan every time you obeyed a sexual partner about anything. Scan every time you resented somebody's sexual desire. It goes on and on and on. Scan all the times you stopped or interrupted sex. Scan all the times you started sex and failed. Scan all the times you wanted to hear sounds during sex. Scan all the times you wanted sexual conversation to affect you. Scan all the times you resented sexual conversation. Scan all the times you resented dirty jokes. Okay, so those were some of the weird auditing procedures that you would use in order to cure yourself of homosexuality, which is not possible to do. So when I was in the Church of Scientology, I was studying Handbook for Pre-Clears. I was studying Science of Survival. I have cliff notes in this book. I have Dianetics here that I would be studying. I was on the whole full basic book and lecture lineup, which was more than just those 3 books, but those were a part of some of the books. So when I was studying these different courses, I wasn't out of the closet when I was in Scientology. Maybe it would have been better. Maybe they would have just gotten rid of me and I wouldn't have had any more further experiences in Scientology. I was in the closet because I grew up in a very Roman Catholic household. It was very strict. Homosexuals were the butt of the joke. They don't live where we are, was what my mother would say. You'd have the nuns spanking you with the ruler. You didn't have freedom to be yourself. You would have, I don't remember if I mentioned this or not, but when I was in school, we would have a class girlfriend. The teacher would pair you up, almost like an arranged marriage. And you'd hold the girl's hand and you'd walk to the bathroom, for example. When it was bathroom time and the teacher would say, get your school boyfriend or girlfriend, you'd hold their hands and you'd walk to the bathroom or out to go to recess or whatever. So there was this big pressure to be straight. They would have Bible verses on what Jesus and God or whoever would, condemn the homosexual. So when I first moved to LA, I got into Scientology. So for me, this homophobic sort of environment was normal for me because I grew up in that sort of religious Catholic background with the homophobia. So for me going to Scientology, it was seen as normal. So my whole life, I always thought of it as wrong. So of course Scientology isn't going to be, polite or anything towards gay people. So for me, when I was in Scientology, I just kept myself in the closet because I knew, as I'm reading Dianetics, one of the first couple of books I read, well, actually I read Self-Analysis as one of the first, very, very first books I read. I don't know if there was anything critical about homosexuality, and Self-Analysis is a way to audit yourself. But But I did eventually come into Dianetics, and then I was reading all these different things about gay people, the general culture of the other Scientologists. Everything was, this person's a faggot, this one's this, that, just all the derogatory things. So for me, I knew kind of quickly, like, ooh, like kind of like suppress being gay, because it was considered wrong. And I was told, like, as you go up the tone scale, people who are 1-1, like as you go and receive auditing, you go up the tone scale. You may go from 1-1 all the way up to 40.0, like up to the total tops of the scale. And that's what's going to happen in auditing. So once you get out of 1-1, you're going to be able to get out of that fixed condition of being homosexual. So that's what I was thinking was going to happen to me, whether that's what they believe, whatever. I thought, I'm going to go up the tone scale and I'm not going to be gay anymore. And then when I'm in auditing, I can get off some of these sexual desires and sexual things in session and like erase them, so then I could be straight. So even though I was on the meter and they were asking me about women and stuff like that, to me, I just thought, well, okay, you know, I'm gay, so I'm not going to be gay anymore. So let me start just living my life in like the lie of pretending I'm straight, you know? So that's kind of how I was thinking about it. So it was never odd to me that they were homophobic or anything, because my religious background, I was 18, 19 years old, and my religious background was the Roman Catholic Church. I didn't think anything of, I didn't know that there was churches that actually liked gay people. I just always thought gay equals bad. So there was a 2004 article in the St. Petersburg Times, and the church defines marriage as a union between a man and a woman. And that was back in 2004. Now, I was in Scientology kind of a little bit later than that, around 2008, 2009-ish. I was in Scientology, so I remembered a story. So my Division 6 course supervisor, Division 6 is like the new people department in Scientology, she was getting certified to deliver the Dianetics weekend seminar that they have like almost every weekend at Celebrity Center, at any other organization, where you just sit with another person and you like do like some basic Scientology Dianetics auditing sessions. So she was getting trained to deliver that course. So as part of the course, she needed like students to like drill some exercises with. So me and this girl were pulled off a course to be Diana's like dummy doll, essentially, basically like her partner on this course, or I don't know the right way to put it, but me and the other girl were to ask really challenging, it was considered like confronting evil. Like we were supposed to ask questions that the new people would ask in Scientology, like, oh, does Scientology believe in aliens? Does Scientology believe this or that? And then Diana would have to give a response, like the church's PR response, and say, oh no, there's no mention of aliens in Scientology. Oh, Scientology welcomes people from all faiths, because they say like you can be any faith and be a Scientologist, which isn't true at all. Look at OT8, LRH was the Antichrist, so there's no factual basis in that. So one of the questions that we asked her in part of the drilling was, how does Scientology feel about like homosexuality? She's like, oh, great question, like people may ask this. So then like her course supervisor was here, Diana was here, and we were sitting there talking to her, and she went into her whole like gleaming look and says, you can be any sexual orientation and practice and utilize Dianetics. So basically, yes, you can use Dianetics if you're gay. You can use Dianetics if you're black, if you're Muslim, if you're Chinese. Anyone can read Dianetics or apply Dianetics, but that's not really saying, what does Scientology feel about gay people? Are you accepted to be gay? Can you be in Scientology and go up the bridge of total freedom if you're gay without any sort of ethics repercussion or anything? Like, you'd have to ask the question in such very specific way. You can't just say, does Scientology like gay people? Yeah, Scientology likes gay people because they like gay money. They like gay people to be on course if they're going to be, renouncing their homosexuality. But it's considered something bad. Like when you're in interviews to go to, say, Flag or go to other orgs, they ask you straight up, have you had sex with a man? Have you had anal intercourse? Have you ever given a man a blowjob? Have you ever given a man a hand job? They've asked all those sort of questions in order to figure out if you have engaged in any sort of homosexual behaviors. So Paul Haggis wrote to former Scientology spokesman Tommy Davis, and he asked Tommy about what was going on with Scientology supporting Proposition 8. So this is what happened. Haggis wrote to Tommy Davis, the church's spokesperson, and requested that he denounce their support of Proposition 8. However, the church disputes this, with Davis stating, Church of Scientology San Diego had been on a list of churches that supported Proposition 8 out in California. It was incorrectly included. Because it was so incorrectly included. And named when it should have never been on the list to begin with. Davis also stated that the inclusion of the San Diego branch on the list of supporting Proposition 8 was with the work of a single employee who was removed from his post and the church's name was taken off the list. Now, why would Scientology say or do that? Because they don't want bad public relations. When you first go in, if you're going on an introductory tour or you're going in for the first course, Scientology, we welcome you from all faiths. We welcome you to come into this church to practice Dianetics, Scientology, whatever. Like, they give you this public relations pitch. Oh, we love gay people. Oh, we love this or that. They'll say anything just so it's an acceptable sort of truth in the beginning. And then eventually when you go deeper, you realize, oh, it's really because gay people are evil, but they couldn't tell me that in the beginning because I wouldn't have understood that I needed to do X, Y, Z. Or, like there's all these different explanations. Like, we'll inform them of that a little bit later, like once they're more involved in Scientology, where they're too deep in to be able to change their mind. It's sickening how they do that. In 2005, a Scientology spokesman gave this comment. The Church of Scientology does not dictate sexual preferences. Scientology is a practical method of improving conditions in life and works to increase a person's abilities, give higher IQ and better reaction time, greater ability to solve his problems in life, things of that nature. And an official Scientology website states, the second dynamic is the urge towards existence as a future generation and it has two compartments, sex and the family unit, including the rearing of children. A culture will go by the boards if its basic building block, the family, is removed as a valid building block. So one can be fairly sure that he who destroys marriage destroys the civilization. Scientology will not take a public stance necessarily about being anti-gay because they're all about creating an image. They can't come off like the Westboro Baptist Church. They have to try to make it off like they're like this normal sort of, we're just here for self-help and we're improving the world and we love all people. And Scientology wants to give that impression because they can't push any more people away. Like, they need to try to get a little bit more people in. They're trying to come off as more universal and widespread, even though their beliefs can be tied to groups like that that are just hating on groups of individuals. Now, I met my husband in 2012, and if it wasn't for him, I was going to go to Florida, to Clearwater, Florida, and I was going to join the Sea Organization at the Superpower building. I was going to continue to stay in the closet. I was going to move down to Flag to become a Sea Org member, because I'm like, well, my career isn't going anywhere, my finances are ruined, everything is going to hell. But the only thing to me right now that's making a difference is Scientology. And I want to clear the planet, and I want to be involved in a greater and bigger game. And I was about to leave in 6 weeks from the date I met my husband, but then we met, and I'm like, well, instead of going down to Florida, like, let me see like where this relationship goes. Even though it was like a secret relationship at first, I fell for my husband really hard, so I didn't want to necessarily give that all up and go to Florida and then always wonder what if, because I knew he was perfect for me, but I didn't want to ruin the chance. I guess it was probably a sign from God. I don't know. It wasn't meant for me to go to Florida to join the Sea Organization. I was lucky about that. And then once I got out of the continuous brainwashed state that I was in, because when you're in Scientology, you show up to course every single day, 2.5 hours, 5 hours a day. So you're always continuously drinking the Kool-Aid, so to speak. So once you separate yourself from that for a while and you see the outside world and other things, you're like, I don't necessarily need Scientology to be a better person. Or then you start seeing the toxicness of it, when you got to look at it and as is it for what it really is and see it for what it really is. It makes a really big difference. And then I said, you know what, I can't deny who I really am, because auditing obviously isn't working to cure me, and Scientology is not doing anything to change my sexuality. And it's dangerous to engage in those sort of practices because it really messes with your mind. Whether it's a Catholic priest doing it or if it's a Scientology auditor, you're who you are based on, I don't think they really know necessarily, but you're born gay. You're not necessarily just develop being gay, because that's what I was conditioned to believe, that it may have been a sexual experience in my past, or it could have been a dominance towards my mother. It might have been a last lifetime incident that I'm stuck in, or I'm stuck in a previous gender from a last lifetime. Like, I'm really male, but I'm stuck as a female because of a past lifetime, and my body didn't convert. Like, you think like all these crazy things that aren't even true. So I just want any of you to know out there that are struggling with this sort of thing that, one, Scientology is homophobic. Do not go into Scientology try to cure yourself of being gay. It doesn't work. They're going to take all your money, then kick you to the curb when you don't have any money left, and you're not going to be able to join the Sea Org because you're gay. So basically, Scientology is not going to help you if you're gay. You have to think, if any group or any religion is hating on one type of person or excluding them, like in the Catholic Church, they say Jesus loves everyone. But Scientology and L. Ron Hubbard and David Miscavige clearly do not love every single type of person. He says racist things about black people, about Chinese people, about gay people, about this type of person, about psychiatrists. They're just a hate group. They're filled with hate. You can't elevate spiritually. For those people out there who are looking for some spiritual enlightenment, you cannot elevate yourself spiritually in a group full of hate. If you're trying to ascend to spiritual levels, I'm trying not to be preacherish. This is just my own viewpoint on it. And don't take me as a guru. I'm not going to start a cult, guys. So if you like what I'm saying, I'm not going to start selling you a spiritual manual. But when you're trying to elevate to higher levels of spirituality, you can't do that when you're in a group full of hate, trying to steal your money, credit cards, lock you in rooms, take your servitude for a billion-year contract, being just under constant sleep deprivation. You're mentally exhausted and abused by these people constantly. You can't elevate to higher states of spiritual existence, even in auditing. Even if you have some slight idea that maybe auditing would work in the early levels, whatever, you can't get any spiritual gains when you're in a toxic regime. And you think, what is freedom? What is the definition? And when you think of freedom, you have your freedom of thought, freedom of speech, freedom to believe what you want, do what you want. You just are free of like the chains, right? So when Scientology is telling you, can't watch the news, you can't read the newspaper, you can't do this, you can't do this, can't do that, you can only follow L. Ron Hubbard policies and procedures, you're stuck in this bubble, right? And you're stuck in a bubble from the 1950s or 60s, right? So you have to try to think outside the box. We're in 2017. Gays should be able to get married. If you're transgender, great. You can't just listen to what L. Ron Hubbard said in Dianetics and try to apply that to 2017. There's a lot of things that L. Ron Hubbard says in here. He said in here that, a young girl shouldn't be disturbed by being kissed by an old man. If she's disturbed, or if the parents are disturbed, then they have an engram on that. Like, there's just so much crazy stuff in this book that I can't even begin to tell you. But I'm getting off on a different tangent right now. But if you guys want to see more videos, please click subscribe below. It will notify you when I release new videos. Give a thumbs up on this video. And also check out the description. I have a new channel that I want you guys to go check out and watch. It's my comedy channel. I talk about a lot of crazy and fun different things on there. I'm going to do story time videos and vlogs and just other personal fun things that are outside of Scientology. Scientology will remain on this channel. My other channel is going to be a lot of fun videos that I really want you guys to check out. So please click down below for the link to that channel. Thanks so much for watching, guys.